You have been using Heartsteel incorrectly for most of the set, and I'm going to show you exactly how and why you should use it in a different way. We're also going to go over 3 games from the recently played Heartsteel tournament from one of the top players there, showing the 3 different ways of using Heartsteel. First one is going to be the tried and true method of getting it in the beginning, lose streaking, and see what happens after that. The next one is just using it once and not getting too greedy with it. And the last one will be the way that I think should be used a bit more. So most people, when they think of all the econ traits in the history of TFT, we've had like Underground, we've had Fortune. You typically want it to lose streak the whole time, and the earlier you got the trait, the better it is. You just keep using it, and that part is still true for Heartsteel, which is the econ trait of set 10. However, there is one really cool way you could use Heartsteel, which is different from everything else in the past, and I think it's a little bit underrated, and it's been shown to do a lot more in this recent patch because if you look on bunnymuffins.lol and you go to the meta snapshot, you'll see that the best comp right now is Heartsteel Ezreal. So this is the perfect time to like learn how to actually use this. It's been the best comp for the past 2 patches. And the reason why this comp is so good is because you make use of a lot of different items. So Ezreal can use a bunch of items, Zed can use a bunch of items, all your tanks can use all random sorts of items, Lucian can use items. So you have a lot of item holders. And guess what? Heartsteel gives a lot of items, and here's a legendary board down here with even more options. But what is the best way to get items? Is it to get Heartsteel starting from stage 2-1, using the extra economy that you get from it, from the gold drops, getting the extra items, components, things like that? Like, that's all fine and dandy, nothing wrong with using Heartsteel that way. But I think the best way to use Heartsteel is to actually try to not play Heartsteel in the early game, try to win streak instead, stay at 100 HP until stage 4. Obviously, this doesn't happen all the time, but if you're like 90, high 80s, that's good enough, right? And then what you want to do is lose streak in stage 4 with Heartsteel active, preferably 5 Heartsteel. But how do we get there and why is it better? So if we look at the loot tables for Heartsteel, typically this goes up until like 1,000 hearts, which is going to be all the way down here. Normally, you don't get much more than 1,000. Like sometimes the rare game, you'll get like 1,500 or something like that if you get something super crazy. Not saying it doesn't happen, but mainly the rewards you're going to get are typically going to be from 0 to 500, sometimes in the 750, sometimes in the 1,000. So if we look at these rewards starting at the top, in the beginning, you just get like a bunch of gold. Like most cash outs in stage 2, you're going to get like 40 hearts, let's say. You're going to get like 8 gold or something, or like you get a random component. Nothing wrong with that. It's going to be great. You're going to get a ton of value from it. I want Heartsteel on 2-1 as well. But again, if you want to like super cap out your board, maybe not the best way to do it because you just want even more rewards for your health. So if we lose a lot in stage 4, you can actually get some of these like 400 gold cash outs or 500 gold cash outs because getting like 3 cash outs of like 8 gold or even like, or some of the ones down here, getting 6 gold and 2 random 4 cost units. How much is that? Like 14 gold or like a Thieves Glove and 3 gold. Getting that like 3 times doesn't really compare to like a 300 gold cash out or like a 500 gold cash out. Look at this. Get 10 gold Tactician's Crown, Radiant Thieves Gloves, 2 support items, 2 Warmogs, 4 gold, things like that. At like 300 or let's say 250, that one happens more often. You get a Tactician's Crown and 8 gold. Those are much better rewards, you know? And it's able to accelerate your game that much quicker. So I actually want to take a look at some games played in the recent tournament. I think it's actually called Heartsteel Cup, ironically enough. We're going to look at a game from Aegon, which is one of the players that I like a lot. He doesn't play that much anymore, but he managed to make it to the regional finals without even playing that much. What I find absolutely hilarious is that when I look up his player profile on teamfight.lol, you can see he played a lot in the beginning of the set. And then all of a sudden, at around like January 27th, he just stopped playing and he like decayed all the way down to 76 LP from like 1,000. But he was even like almost 1,300 before. Coincidentally, that's when the tournaments were being played. It was like last weekend and the weekend before that. But he's not even trying. He's not even playing. He's just kind of smurfing on people. Some people are built like that. But we're going to take a look at 1 or 2 of his games of how to play Heartsteel in stage 4 using the raise the stakes mechanics, even when it goes wrong. A lot of people, there's a lot of drama around raise the stakes. They're like, hey, like, this guy's griefing my raise the stakes and I can't win anymore. But like, this guy in a tournament failed his raise the stakes, and let's just see what happens. So the first game we're going to go over is the first game of day 4, which is at that point top 32. So we're pretty deep into the tournament already, but this is going to be a typical econ trait game where we have Heartsteel from the beginning. We're going to be getting a bunch of gold, getting some items perhaps, and we'll show like the normal power of Heartsteel right now. And then in game 2, we'll see what Heartsteel does when you don't get greedy to it. You just get like a small cash out. And then in the final game, the third game, that's going to be the game where we're going to be seeing the stage 4 Heartsteel, which I can't wait to get into. But we're going to skip through a bit of this first game. He manages to get a perfect lose streak to get a 40 gold cash out. So you could raise the stakes here if you scout properly. So he's going to be doing the scouting now. Very important before you raise the stakes. You have to absolutely make sure that you can actually lose all the future rounds. And normally when you do this, you want to have no items on your Heartsteel units, because if you have items built on someone and then someone else is playing Heartsteel and they don't have items, it could be a risky thing to do. But if you scout, you can do a little extra. So he scouts here. He sees that most likely other people are not going to be open forting as hard. Unfortunately, someone else is doing sort of like an open fort. Some people are like fake open forting. They like delete units or sell units when you're looking at their board when they have other units to put instead. This makes you potentially go back to your board, sell more units, but then they just play a normal board. It's a little bit of a more advanced trick that people use, but of course this is one of the final days of a tournament. People have worked like for months to prepare for this. So obviously you're gonna pull every trick in the book. But here he did his scouting, he did his homework, and he saw that most people were pretty weak. Going into every PvP round, he's going to do some more furious scouting, because again, if you do win a round, your game does like hurt a lot. But that's why I like to, when I do this, to not have any items on my Heartsteel units. That way, in case someone does open fort, you can. But obviously, if you scout, that makes up for it. I do my strategy out of ignorance. It's kind of like the easy way of doing Heartsteel. I'll lose more health in the long run, but it's a bit of a safer way to play. Obviously, I'm not min-maxing when I do it. I'm just playing on solo queue, so I'm just like, who cares at the end of the day, right? But when you're playing in a tournament, you have to min-max it. So sometimes you put items on people, sometimes you don't. It depends on what you see when you scout. And a lot of people have trouble scouting. It's very important to do as you get higher and higher. But here you see a great example of what scouting can do. Now on stage 3, are we gonna be greedy and take a combat augment? No, we're gonna take Tiniest Titans to get our health up. Very important to do, because lowest health in the lobby by a ton right now, 60 health. 7th place is at 74 health. And then we're about to get a 300 cash out here, almost perfectly timed. So what happened was in stage 2-6, we had a 3 Heartsteel loss with raise the stakes. In stage 3-1, 3 Heartsteel as well. And then stage 3-2 and 3-3, 5 Heartsteel with raise the stakes on every single round. That is enough to get a 300 cash out, and look at what we get. Wow, 2 spatulas, a bow, and a Negatron. That is absolutely nuts. Keep in mind, 5 Heartsteel has been nerfed, so with the new nerfs, you would not make it to 300. You'd be at the 250 cash out, but you have to keep in mind, like, it's not like Aegon perfect loss streaked every round. If he killed 1 or 2 more units, he would get the same cash out. So even though there is a nerf, it won't affect you as many times as you think, because there are a ton of times when I cash out where I'm like 1 or 2 off the next threshold, and in those games, nothing would be different. So it's going to depend on your game, whether it affects you or not. In this case, it would. So do keep that in mind. But a 300 cash out, a 250 cash out, it's still really good. Like the 250 cash outs, you get like a support anvil, 20 gold. You get a tactician's crown and 8 gold. Item anvil, 22 gold, 25 gold, and 2 5-cost units. Like they're all really, really big, even though they are obviously worse than the 300 gold cash outs. It's around an 8 gold difference. So now that he has 1 billion gold from Tiniest Titans, lose streaking for most of the game, and from the Heartsteel cash out, we're able to do a roll down on stage 4-1, get a Heartsteel Ezreal, of course, perfect items, and yeah, I looked at this game. I actually watched this game live. I tuned in at around this moment. I think on like stage 3-5 I tuned in, and in chat I rate type GG because this game is over. And this is a pretty typical game of Heartsteel if you get a good cash out. Obviously, you have to get the racist stakes to be pulled off correctly. You have to get like just enough of the threshold to get like a big reward. You have to hit the Ezreal. You could hit Zed as well. Zed's pretty good. You don't really need the Heartsteel in stage 4. Like he's just playing 3 Heartsteel because like all the units happen to do something on the board. But you do not have to do that at all. You can take pretty much any 4-cost chosen that makes sense for your comp. You could take like a Poppy chosen here. You could take a Zed chosen here. There are a lot of different options. Obviously, Ezreal is going to be the best one. But pretty much from here on out, he goes from last place all the way to first place, and he is going level 9 after that. Like you don't really need to roll that much more after you hit this board. And on stage 4, he did take a combat augment. You do not want too many economy augments. Normally in TFT, maybe 1 economy augment's good. But any more than that, your team just isn't strong enough. So he took heavy hitters on stage 4. And then he did eventually lose some rounds. I think he lost like 2 rounds in stage 5, but he went level 10. And when you go level 10, you get Jin 2-star, you have Lucian 1 still, but he's going to get Lucian 2. He has Poppy 2, he has Kane 2. He's still got the 4 big shot. Tons of items on his bench. He has like too much here. I think, yeah, just IE the Jin. Clear the bench space a little bit so Jin can really pop off. In stage 6, like holding stuff on bench when you have a Jin, not really worth it because every bit of damage counts because you lose so much health at the end of the game. So even though he might want to hold on to some things, you have to sell them so that Jin gets maximum power, as you see here. And you don't need perfect item Jin. No one's ever said like, yeah, Bloodthirster is the best item on Jin. No one's ever saying that. Whenever you're playing for legendary units, you don't get to pick your items. So any items are good. That's why you like to build items early so that you get more value out of them. And then if you get a 2-star legendary, it doesn't matter what you have on them. They're going to be popping off. So I guess one mistake that some people might make is they try to go for like perfect item Jin or perfect item legendaries. And it just doesn't end up working that well because you might lose a lot of life earlier on. Or maybe the items, the BT from before, worked really well with different characters. And for his previous boards, that's probably saved him a bunch of health. Now, it did get a little dicey. He is at 8 life, but he gets a Lucian 2. He's got the Jin 2. He's got a Ziggs 2, a Lowy 2, Yorick 2. I mean, like, when you just have this much gold, like, you just end up hitting everything. And the games were really close. This Seraphine board actually almost beat him. Like, look at how close this fight is. Look at this Ziggs. I've never seen Ziggs do this, but BT Ziggs, not horrible, not horrible. And you get a nice little win there from classic Heartsteel. Let's move on into the second game. So in game 2, we're on the Scuttle Puddle portal, so you get a ton of econ there because the Scuttle units are like the Scuttles, they give a lot of gold, they give a lot of items. And we actually don't play Heartsteel until stage 3. And with this Gargantuan Resolve augment, gonna go for some sort of reroll comp. Typically stuff like Riven, Yone, really good with this augment. But he started stage 3 with 92 health. He plays 3 Heartsteel. Nothing crazy, right? He's not playing 5 Heartsteel, he's not playing 7 Heartsteel. Gets a nice little 86 Heartsteel cash out. And keep in mind, the only thing that got nerfed about Heartsteel is 5 Heartsteel. So this literally doesn't change anything. And look, since he's so low already, no need to be greedy. Just take the cash out, 61 life. Need to sort of stabilize a little bit. You get a Thieves' Gloves and 3 gold and call it a day. Now in this exact game, he does end up placing 7th. Not the best like outcome on the rolls. I mean, if you're playing Pentakill with 1-star Viego and everyone has 2-star everything and like 3-star of one other thing, like yeah, life's gonna be rough a bit. But he does end up going 7th this game. Obviously not the best game. Augments could have been better maybe. But this is an example of another Heartsteel game where you just don't go greedy on the Heartsteel and you just use it once, and that's it, you know, perfectly fine there. Now onto the final game. I believe this was the 6th game of the day or the 5th game of the day. There were 7 games that day. But here we see a great example because you may notice already, we don't have Heartsteel, and I'm showing you the screen right now. What happens instead is we are going to win streak for the entirety of stage 2 with the Trinity Force, with the Olaf. Olaf's pretty good at stabilizing or like winning rounds in stage 2 at this point of the set. And we even see a bunch of Heartsteel units on his bench. He's gonna save it for later. You don't have to play it right away. Just because you see Heartsteel doesn't mean you have to like try to play it as often as possible. Obviously, like had he had Heartsteel, like yeah, he'd play it from the beginning, right? Because it's just really consistent. But if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. There are different ways to play around the game. And if you get it later, what are you supposed to do? Well, let's get into what we're supposed to do by watching this exact game. So going into stage 3, if you are on a win streak, you want to keep streaking even harder. So notice how he's level 6 now. Most people are still level 5 at this point, but if you're on a win streak, and if you look at my leveling guide at bunnymuffins.lol/tft-leveling, you'll know that leveling to 6 is a pretty common thing when you're trying to win streak, and he does exactly that here. For the augments, you want some sort of combat augment to keep the power going. Unfortunately, he doesn't really get any good options here. He's kind of forced to take Indomitable Will. That's the only thing that gives him immediate power. On a roll is going to be an econ augment. Rolling for days is going to be another econ augment. By the way, look at how much people are scouting when they're playing in a tournament. That's the difference between like higher level play and lower level play. Scouting is a big deal. Like honestly, up until like Grandmaster, like scouting probably doesn't do that much. Even in like low challenger scouting, you don't really need to do it. It's nice to do, obviously. Like it's good to get into the habit. but it's not absolutely necessary. But as you get higher and higher after that, like scouting becomes even more important. But even though you do not get good augment choices in terms of combat power, you still have to take something because you want to try to keep win streaking as much as possible whenever you are like on a win streak, obviously. So you have to take Indomitable Will. It is what it is. And this fight isn't that important to the whole point of this video, but this Urgot just absolutely smurfs so hard. Like, Urgot in stage 3 is so powerful. Look at this. Completely obliterates this team. Kind of secures the win streak for one more round. But look at this next fight. Here it looks like kind of even. There's a freaking Yasuo 3-star like terrorizing everyone. just watch what happens. Like, this Urgot is struggling. Aphelios CCs him correctly. Urgot almost dies, somehow keeps it alive, and then just demolishes these other people. He ends up getting a belt off of Carousel, and then look at what he does. Slams the Morello on Viego. So Viego's a great user of anti-heal items. Would I prefer a red buff on Viego? Of course, because he makes better use of the stats. Morello gives ability power, and you don't really need ability power when you're playing Viego. But look at this. The fight looks pretty bad, right? It's like a 5v2. This Urgot just completely eats everyone up and just heals so much. Wow, that's actually crazy. That's just from Mosher buff, by the way. Keeps the win streak alive one more turn. Ends up in a 1v3 scenario at the end of stage 3. Unfortunately, Urgot was not able to clutch this one out. Even though I guess it was like 2v3 or 2v4 because I forgot about Aphelios. But unfortunately, the streak's over. We're at 95 health right now. Back to the main point of the video, which is Heartsteel. So what do we have here? We have like a small cash out. We're at 40 or like a 20 cash out right now. Almost at 40. Probably going to hit 40 after the next round. But let's watch and see what he does in this next roll down. So he's got the 2 Trinity Forces on bench. So probably needs some holder for that. Rolls down a bit. Obviously looking for Ezreal. We hit that there. Gonna get the set. Probably gonna replace this set and maybe get a Zed later on. Do we keep rolling? No, he actually stops rolling. Plays for 5 Heartsteel. And then he's gonna do some stake raising. Isn't that neat? Normally people just automatically level up to level 8, roll down, or like wait until 4-2, automatically level up, roll down. But here, rolls on 7, gets 5 Heartsteel, and then is just going to raise the stakes instead in stage 4, because guess what? You're at 95 health right now. Let's see what type of cash outs we can even get. So, all right, so for some reason, obviously whenever the augment selection thing's up, he's always scouting. Like, I don't know what he's thinking about, but it's a pattern I've noticed every single time an augment selection comes out. He's like scouting using the entire timer, but for some reason he just loves heavy hitters. I don't know why. He ends up taking heavy hitters. I think in all 3 of these games, actually. I think here it makes a lot of sense because you have the Trinity Forces. Trinity Forces give you the health to reach that threshold sometimes, but it's just really funny that he took it in all 3 games. And then boom, raise the stakes. We're at 100 cash out right now. I just realized I'm a complete idiot. Of course he's scouting because he's deciding whether to raise the stakes or not. But in the other situations when augments came up, he was still thinking a lot. So obviously thinking more than just raising the stakes. But after 1 loss, we're at a 225 cash out already. You need to lose 3 more times, or you don't have to lose 3 more times. So you get the huge reward after that. Unfortunately, there is this one weak player. They don't even look like, I guess they are decently weak. They have a Caitlyn 2. The rest of the board's 1-star apart from Yone. It's kind of like the same board as Aegon's. Aegon doesn't even have like a 2-star forecast, I believe. But Kayn just beasted for some reason. Caitlyn sucks right now, so that's probably why. So Caitlyn doesn't even count as a real unit. But unfortunately, the streak's broken and only gets a 140 cash out. That really sucks because had the race of stakes gone on even just a little bit longer, obviously there would have been tons of awards to be kind of given. And his original cash out was what, like 100 or something like that? So he literally just gets one little breakpoint higher. I think it goes from 100 to 130 cash out. But you would kind of think the game is over here. So the cash out pops out. He does still have 5 Heartsteel in. Let's see the roll down because you have to go to level 8 now. Gets the Heartsteel Ezreal, absolutely huge. Like obviously, like when you're playing Heartsteel and you get Heartsteel Ezreal, your game's gonna go a little better than average, right? So the first game where we saw this happen, he won the game, but you could get second, you could get third if you have like a different headliner. You could have like Zed headliner, for example. But in this case, or in both these cases, he does get the Ezreal Heartsteel. So obviously these are quote unquote high roll games. I'm not saying they're not, but had you had a different headliner and you get like third place or second place, and you still could win, you know. He's playing 6 Heartsteel right now, for example. It still displays the absolute power of this comp. So unfortunately, loses here. Won with the Urgot 2-star, lose with the Ezreal 2-star against this Yasuo player. And then we're gonna fast forward a bit. So his new Heartsteel cash out was on stage 4-6 or 4-5, 4-6, 5-1, and 5-2. So 2 rounds in stage 5, 2 rounds in stage 4, losing all of them, and he gets a 300 cash out again. So again, in this specific situation, with the new nerfs, he's gonna get a lower cash out. But again, just because it happens in this situation doesn't mean it's gonna happen in other situations. There are gonna be times where you're like 1 off the cash out or 2 off the cash out. Also, he did not have perfect losses the entire time, and he gets the same cash out as he did before. But imagine, just imagine if his raise the stakes worked before. That would have been absolutely bonkers. And this game is a little bit different from the first game because we do not have an extra like health augment. What was it? Tiniest Titans, which healed us every turn to kind of save us from salvation, or whatever the phrase is called. Here, our like health advantage was from just having a really good stage 2 and stage 3, where we entered stage 4 with, what was it, 95 health, and then we get like a very, very similar board to what we had before. We have the Ezreal, almost perfect items. We have the Ziggs with the Morello, Trinity Force, and Giant Slayer, very good there. It is getting a little concerning here. This fight was super, super close. Unfortunately, lose that, get 38 stacks of Heartsteel, but he's able to reach level 9 again. Look at that. Almost exactly. Obviously, this time doesn't have much gold to roll with, but he's at 13 life, so things are getting a little bit desperate. Adding in whatever traits you can for some Jazz value. Ends up getting a Lucian, puts Crowd Diver on him. Crowd Diver does give more damage, so even though you don't jump to the backline, Crowd Diver buff gives you, was it like 20% bonus? I forget what the bonus damage is, but it also scales throughout the duration of the fight. So it's actually pretty good on like a backliner because they're able to stay alive for a really, really long time. But let's take a deep breath for a moment. Let's look at his board. So this is not the same board he had in game 1. This is completely different. He's running 4 Crowd Diver now. He's got a 1-star Evelynn on board. He's got a 1-star Bard, 1-star MF, 1-star Ziggs, even a 1-star Zed. The only 2 stars are Zac, Ezreal, and Yone. So it's not like his board is super duper strong, and he's facing very respectable boards. This guy's got Kayle 3, he's got 2-star Viego, 2-star of Mordekaiser, like he's got 2-star Ahri in the back line. But you can see already, with the extra items that you get from the Heartsteel cash out from the later stages, with 3 combat augments, because you don't have to take like a health augment to get a little back up. Does this Ezreal clutch it? I forget. He actually does. You're able to beat real boards with this comp, even though you're pretty much all 1-star because you have triple combat augments and like so many items. So even though you have like perfect item Zed on a 1-star, normally like that isn't that great, right? But it still does a little bit, you know? Eventually we do make it to stage 7. We do find a 2-star Kiana, but before that it was 1-star. Does get the 2-star Zed and 2-star Alawi sometime during stage 6, but honestly during stage 6, that's already like super late in the game. You should have like the 2-star Zed at least, but for a bunch of rounds in stage 6, he still had the 1-star Zed. But luckily, good items on this Kiana as well. I actually forgot if he won this game or not. Let's take a look. Does some weird stuff with like the Bard in the front line. I'm not too sure what's going on there, but let's see. 3-star Echo, 3-star Seraphine. This is like the Ahri Warriors board, I believe, with Superfan. They got a 2-star Ziggs in the back line. No items though, but yeah, this board just kind of demolishes it, and he is able to win another game like that. He ended up getting 5th place in the tournament, which is very, very huge. How many people were there? I think there were like 128 people total in the tournament. No, it was like 160 in the tournament. I don't remember. It's a lot of people though. But what's the moral of the story? Stage 4 and Stage 5 Heartsteel, incredibly, incredibly powerful. You should try it out with the win streak at the start. And yeah, obviously the classic Heartsteel is still very good, so don't need to touch too many things there. Did the nerfs hurt this a little bit? Of course. In these 2 examples, the 5 Heartsteel nerfs do affect this, but you can say like if he gets a 3rd place, good enough. If he gets a 2nd place, good enough. And it doesn't show the other games where you're like barely missing out on a threshold and it actually doesn't affect anything at all. But let me know if this video kind of helped you out. This has kind of been true for like most of the set. I don't know why I haven't said it until now. Maybe I mentioned it in some of the meta snapshots. I don't always like say everything I know. Like Now, it's not on purpose. It's just I don't have time to make like infinite videos every single set. But just try this out. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit weird trying to lose streak on stage 4, but I promise you it does work. And this was with a failed raise the stakes. He got first place with a failed raise the stakes. So you could say like nerf this, nerf that, doesn't work anymore. To that I say like had the raise the stakes worked, you wouldn't even need the nerf or like care about the nerf. But Heartsteel Ezreal is the best comp right now. Should know how to play it. If you want to find out what the best comps are going to be after the B patch, my website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta, will be updated every single Friday, as it always has been, so I hope to see you all there.